Okay guys, welcome back to another video. Today is a different video than what I've ever done before, so I think I'm just gonna hop right into this. So since it is the summertime, and if you are a reader like myself, then you've probably already added books to your TBR for the summer, or you've not added books to your TBR and you're looking for books. And that's exactly what the purpose of this video is. So I decided that I'm gonna kind of show you and give you a review on the books to show you what they're kind of about, and then you could like decide from there if you want to read them or not. I think you'll probably want to read them. So we're gonna start off strong with The Unhoneymooners. Absolutely love this book by Christina Lauren. She's an amazing author. From what I've read from her books, she writes really well. This book is essentially about the main character Olive and her little enemy. His name is Thomas. This book is a 2 out of 5 spice level, so if you're kind of like me and you're not a big fan of the spice in a lot of books, this book is perfect. But I would say there's the witty banter is pretty good. The tropes of this book are more enemies to lovers, fake dating, forced proximity, and it's a vacay read because, as it says, the Unhoneymooners, they go on a honeymoon trip that was actually meant for her sister and her brother-in-law, but some things happen in between and they end up going instead because, I mean, why would they want to waste that precious trip? The two enemies go and end up being lovers. Another good thing about this book, if you're going to an island or Hawaii to be specific, and you want a good little beach read about like a Hawaii vacation while you're on vacation, I mean, this is literally the perfect book for that. This book was a 4 out of 5 read for me, just because actually I don't even remember the reason I gave this a 4 out of 5, but it was. This is a really good book to read. All right, the next book we have is Book Lovers. Book Lovers is a very good book. This was actually a 5-star read for me. Very great book. It's about two main characters, Nora and Steven, who both work in the book industry. Nora is from New York and Nora is from New York, and Charlie is also from New York, but he's really from a place called Sunshine Falls in North Carolina. North Carolina. And he works in New York, so they basically meet when they're both working upstate or whatever. Absolutely loved Charlie and Nora's chemistry. They had a lot of flirty banter, which was honestly like to die for. The spice level wasn't too bad. They had their steamy moments, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. It didn't necessarily go in depth and explain, in my opinion. The start, absolutely perfect. The middle, perfect, and the ending was literally perfect. The overall feel of this book to me was not necessarily like a Hallmark movie, but like some type of movie that you would watch on Netflix. This is what this book gave me. This book is like everything is spiraling down, but at the end it still ends up perfect somehow. Like, how does it happen? Nobody knows. It just ends up perfect. This is how this book is, and it's to die for. Okay, so next up, the lighting kind of switched up on us, but next up we have When in Rome. I read this book last month, and let me tell you, this is my first Sarah Adams book that I've read, and I think Sarah Adams is 110% on my top 5 list of favorite authors. The tropes of this book are forced proximity, opposites attract, small town, grumpy/sunshine, or grumpy x sunshine, depends how you want to put it, and it's also a celebrity romance. One thing that I really liked about this book is that the male character didn't work the stereotypical male job, if you know what I mean. Typically when you think of a baker or someone who owns a bakery, you think of a girl or a woman. That's just what we have in our heads, right? The main guy, Noah Walker, he lives in a small place called Rome, Kentucky, and he owns a bakery that was passed down from previous family members. And because of that, I think I honestly fell in love, because that is such a cute thing. Like, who doesn't love that? And then the main character, Ray Rose, also known as Amelia Rose, she is a big-time pop singer. She goes to Rome, Kentucky to get away, gets stranded, and basically he comes to her quote-unquote rescue. She ends up staying at his house in a separate room, of course, and it just kind of goes from there. As I said before, grumpy x sunshine. Noah, the guy, is the grumpy part, and Amelia/Ray, she is the one who is the sunshine. And trust me, he refers back to that a lot, so that kind of gives away like the grumpy x sunshine. Next up we have You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel, and it's a really good book. Okay, so this book is a lovers to enemies to lovers book. So there are fiance and I don't know what it's called. It's fiance and okay, but they're about to get married and they come into a fallout. So they're basically trying to see who's gonna call off the engagement first, because honestly, let's be honest, their prides are just too big to, you know, call off the wedding. It's most definitely their second chance romance in here. Basically they essentially give each other that second chance, because the beginning half they try and get on each other's nerves to see who's gonna call it off first, and then the second half they're trying to reconnect and come back together. And then not only that, I feel like there's a tiny, not even a tiny bit, there's a good amount of witty banter, and overall there's just a bunch of funny parts in this book. The setting of this book is kind of like in the fall but like winter setting, because it does snow, so it's not necessarily a summer book, but it's still a good book that you could read during the summer. So okay. Yeah, next up we have the book Do Not Fall in Love. This book is a culinary romance and has Asian representation, which I don't see a lot in books, so that already got this a high marking. And then the plot storyline, I don't know. In the book you have Ryan and Lindsay. Lindsay is a baker, and one day she was baking and Ryan comes in out of literally nowhere rushing and knocks an entire tray of donuts out of her hand. He kind of like, I feel like he knocks it off as if it's not a big deal. He grabs another donut and walks out. Ryan is actually a big Showtime actor guy, right? And Lindsay's a baker, as said before. Ryan needs help because he has a variety show coming up, or not this year, a baking competition show coming up, and he has no idea how to bake. The only thing that he knows how to bake are a failed batch of cupcakes that him and his mother made way back in the day. So he goes to Lindsay, who he already has a bad rep with, and asks for her expertise and her help on teaching him basically how to bake, so for this upcoming show he can win it. So I kind of feel like this kind of shows like a true example of how relationship with parents go, because Ryan doesn't have a good relationship with his dad, and I feel like that's not really shown in a lot of books, so it's in this one, and it's, I guess, a representation. I don't know what to call it necessarily. In this book the characters are honestly extremely relatable in a sense of having to go through loss and how it affects their family, their friends, and honestly themselves. And for this book I wouldn't necessarily say it's an enemies to lovers, but it is most definitely like they started off on the wrong foot, but then they, you know, got to that right foot as they start baking. You know, if you read it or when you read it, you'll kind of see that. So yeah. Okay, so this next book, I'm pretty sure if you're on Book Talk, you've most definitely heard of this book, or you've seen this book somewhere, or you've read it, because I mean, this book is so popular. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This was my first this was one of the books when I started my bookstagram journey, or my book journey last year during July. This book was such a good book. Like, this one actually put me into a reading slump. Not really good to be saying this right now, but that's how good of a book it was, because I couldn't read anything after it for such a long time. So this book, the tropes for this one are fake dating, grumpy ex-sunshine, professor/student, and friends to lovers. They're both adults. So for me, this book was an automatic 5-star read. Like, this book was just that good. It did have some moments that I kind of did skip, just because I'm not a lover of spicy reads, so I typically tend to skip some parts. But if that's what you like, then this book is most definitely for you. Not to mention the main characters are great, but the side characters Malcolm and Anne were honestly like, I loved them as side characters. They were such great side characters. Like, and not to mention, this book is honestly such a good one because I mean, the setting is Canada. Who doesn't love Canada? They have butter tarts and Tim Hortons, two things that we typically don't have here in the US. So I mean, this book, it did it. This is the most definitely a 5-star read for me. I don't know how many times I've already said that, but it's such a good book that I don't mind repeating that. Okay, the next book I have is the book The American Roommate Experiment by Alana Armis. I absolutely love this book. This was the first book that I've read this year of 2023, and let me just say, mwah, great start. Okay, and this is also a 5-star read for me. Perfect for the summer, without a doubt. The tropes for this one are dual POV, best friend's cousin, insta love, and forced proximity. You know, forced proximity books are good. Like, that's all you have to hear to know that a book is gonna be good, for the most part. The main character, Rosie, she reminds me of a lot of myself in a way. Like, her life is perfect, she has everything put together, until one moment it's like not. It's just like not put together at all. And that's perfectly okay. And throughout this book, I think she kind of figures that out and tries to get back into the groove of things, and then at the end it ends up being good and okay. She figures everything out. And then the character Lucas, which we'll see again in just a second, Lucas Martin, he is honestly like top book boyfriend slash real life boyfriend material. He's that guy. Like, he is that guy. Like, he's perfect. Like, there's nothing different that you'd want from a Lucas Martin. Everybody would probably want a Lucas Martin in their life, and reading this book, you kind of get a piece of Lucas Martin. So it's a good book. Every action or everything that he did throughout this entire book, it kind of just raised my standards higher and higher and higher. Like, and the fact that he can cook. This guy could cook, and he's from Spain. He's actually there on vacation, and how they kind of meet each other. Rosie doesn't currently have a place to live because of something that happens to her apartment, and Lucas is there visiting because she's staying, or he is staying in his cousin's apartment while she's gone on her honeymoon. And then little does the cousin know, slash her best friend, she's living at her apartment, but she doesn't know, and she thinks someone's trying to kidnap her, basically come to kill her, but it's just Lucas trying to get into the house. And then that's how they meet. It kind of goes a lot, like, reading the story, I think it's honestly kind of funny, but it's a good book. Now we get down to The Spanish Love Deception by, of course, my girl Elena Armas. And honestly, this book I recommend reading before you read this book, because the main characters from this book will basically introduce these characters. Alright, so the tropes for this book are, it's a slow burn. It's a really good slow burn. It's a slow burn, enemies to lovers, fake dating, it's an office romance, and it is forced proximity. Man, Elena Armas in this forced proximity. This girl is good with the forced proximity, y'all. Catalina Martin and Aaron Blackford, man, that's another good boyfriend right there. Catalina Blackford are basically work enemies. They're basically working against each other. They're enemies to lovers. Catalina needs someone to go to her sister's wedding with her, and she has nobody. She's been telling her family all this time that lives in Spain that she has a boyfriend, but she doesn't have one. So of course, lo and behold, Aaron Blackford, her most definite enemy, comes up out of nowhere like, hey yo, I heard you need someone to go to Spain with you and be a fake boyfriend. And that's what happened. They go to Spain together, and it's such a good book. That sums up 8 summer books that you need to read this summer. And like, do me a favor and do yourself a favor and just read the books, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed talking about books. I hope I explained it well enough, because honestly, I'm not the best at explaining things. And if you kind of notice me doing this a lot, it's a bad habit that I need to probably quit. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you saw a book that you've never seen before and you put that on your TBR ASAP. Literally no Rocky, because it's such a good book. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. I just want to see your prize, boy. Open eyes, seeing nothing. I'm so far from